You're listening to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, episode 14. Hey Cowgirls, welcome back to another episode and the last episode of 2023, as I am currently recording this the last week of December. I feel like what they say is true, that the older you get, the more time just seems to fly by. Nevertheless, on today's episode, I just want to spend a little time talking about some of the episodes I've released this year and the discussions, ideas, and topics that have been brought up on the show and what I've learned from the guests that I've had on and their perspectives on what they have seen in the industry that needs to change or what we can do to improve the horse community for the better and for the future. I have had so many great people come onto the podcast that have great stories and insights. I also want to share again how grateful I am for all of you and the support you have shown me this year since this was my inaugural year of the podcast. I could not do any of this without your kind words and feedback you have shown me on social media, so keep it up. I hope you have listened to the episodes and learned from them and felt inspired to think of how you can make an impact on the industry yourself. I look forward to hearing how you enjoyed this last episode, so let's get into it. Hey, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, hosted by yours truly. My name is Abby Carpenter, and I am a cowgirl and equestrian through and through. I started this podcast wanting to make more of an impact in the equine industry. That's why I am making it my mission to help promote the industry to the public through sharing my love for horses through education and bringing other experts and professionals onto the podcast with me to discuss important topics that impact the horse community. So whether you are a crazy horse lady like me, want to learn more about horses, or want to learn more about the industry, you've come to the right place. On this podcast, we will be talking about ownership, horsemanship, fitness, faith, breeds, and so much more. We believe that it doesn't matter what type of saddle you ride in or the breed of horse you may ride. We all contribute to this community to make it great, and that there is always something to learn from the back of your horse. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This is the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. Wow, I cannot believe we are at the end of 2023 already, and what a year it has been. When I started this podcast in February, I was so full of many emotions, from nervous, excited, anxious, you name it, I felt it all. Most of all, I was hopeful with the promise it would bring to not only my knowledge of the equine industry, but to all of you listening as well. As you well know by now, my vision for this podcast is to make a real impact on the equine industry and bring us back together as a community where we can share ideas and discuss the important topics that need to be heard, so we can make it great for the future generations, regardless of the discipline or breed we ride or work with. I have been absolutely blown away by all the guests I have invited onto the podcast this year, with their incredible stories of how they got to where they are and where they want to see themselves and the industry go into the future. I have to say, I think my most popular episode this year has to be the one with Kelsey McNamee, not only because she is a barrel racer, but because of what she had to say about trusting God with His plan for you and being willing to put yourself out there and taking every opportunity you are given. But also being open to asking questions and asking for what you want. This has certainly been on my heart lately, and I wanted to share that with you. But also I wanted to share that you don't have to be afraid of hearing the word no, or at least not dwelling on it. Recent events in my life have made me realize that life is too short to let a no stop you from the calling God has put on your heart, and that a no could lead you to a better opportunity. I was actually just texting with Kelsey a couple weeks ago, and it is crazy how much her life has changed since we recorded that episode in February, which can be said for a lot of my guests I interviewed this year. And it ties perfectly into the theme of today's episode of change and how it challenges us to think differently, to see amazing things happen that will only benefit the industry, but most importantly, the horse. Speaking of, on Anna's episode, we talked about how she completely changed the course of her life when she took a big leap of faith in her career in entertainment to move to Louisiana to be a racehorse trainer, and brought so much insight into the world of racing. All of my guests, Devin, Patty, Billy, Katie, Denise, Lainey, Jesse, and Bailey, all brought their unique perspectives on what they think we need to do to grow the equine industry. But what I realized they all have in common is reaching out to the younger generations and how important it is to educate them and others to better serve the horse. Whether that is through being a friendly face at a newcomer at a show, learning something new from someone who might ride ropers, but you're an English rider, or maybe you just want to learn more about pulse therapy or the aquapacer as a horse owner. I was recently listening to another podcast about horsemanship and heard something that is just perfect. If you are determined to learn, nothing can stop you. Let me say that again. If you are determined to learn, nothing can stop you. Choosing to be open to continuing your education will help you improve who you are as a rider and your horsemanship skills. This brings up a topic I spoke about on my episode with Billy Smith, is sometimes it takes someone on the outside and thinking creatively to see real change for the better. If the digital world has taught us anything, it's that we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping to see success. It might work half the time, but who wants anything to work only part of the time? Most of us want it to work 100% every time. We must be willing to be open to new ways and ideas of doing things in order to see a real difference. Now, I know it can be uncomfortable at times to change how you do things, but that is how we grow and become better. Personally, I am going through a lot of changes in my life right now that are scary, and I don't exactly know how they will work out, but I know they will be better for me in the long run. The same thing can be said for the equine industry, that it can be scary and unpredictable at times, but that is what can make it exciting as well, because it challenges us to think differently, approach a situation in a new way, or communicate with others to bounce ideas off of each other. It also helps us to look at our own lives and the lives of others differently. Thinking creatively is also how we build more connected and honest relationships with our clients and customers, as I discussed in my interview with Denise Alvarez when it comes to marketing your equine business. Because as your business grows, you're not only growing who you are, but for the development of the industry. Any professional in this industry will tell you that they don't know everything and are still learning something new every day. That has helped them not only serve their clients and their horses better, but the community. As I discussed with Lainey in my episode with her, when you are open to being curious about learning from those outside of your barn, that is when you can learn the most and allow new people in. If you have been following Lainey at all since I released my episode with her, you know that she has made an even further splash into bringing up important conversations that affect the movement of the hunt seat horse that need to change. This is a perfect example of changes for the better that need to happen to help improve and grow the industry. Being curious could also mean auditing a judges seminar, as I discussed with Patty in our episode. That could help you learn to better prepare you and your horse for the next show. Or maybe it could inspire you to try a new career with horses. Something else I took away from my talk with Lainey is you won't always be handed your dream job right away. But if you have the work ethic, have the passion, and trust God's plan, it will happen for you. That can also be said for having the right mindset and improving your mental performance in competition when you not only believe in your dreams, but you have the drive and the discipline to pursue them, as discussed in my episode with Katie. Something that is always going to be true about the horse world is we all love horses and want others to discover the connections we have found through them for themselves. Just as Jesse said in the last episode, it is incredible just the connections that can be made from just one horse. So what can we accomplish when we all come together? However, that can only happen if we continue to learn from each other instead of always competing against each other. Being a friendly face and keeping an open mind to be willing to change to ensure the industry thrives for all. Nobody likes change, as I mentioned. But if we are always looking to the past, we can never go forward and see what the future has in store. And I fully believe big things are coming in the future for the equine industry. This first year of the podcast has been amazing, with every single guest I have interviewed and your stories that you have shared with me, as well as the unbelievable feedback and support I have received from you, the listeners. And I cannot wait to see what 2024 will bring for not only me, but the horse community at all levels. I just want to leave you with this last thought. Learn something new whenever given the chance. Hug and spend time with those you love as much as you can. And if you have a calling on your heart from God, go for it, even if it takes a lot of hard work. A quote that comes to mind is, "You will regret 100% of the chances you didn't take." Failing does not change who you are or what you were meant to do. It is just a part of your story on the road to your success and getting better as an equestrian, business owner, or horse owner. Knowing this will help us make our own impact on the equine industry. Thank you all again so much for listening, and I wish you all a very blessed and wonderful new year. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and will come back for more. But for now, stay blessed and ride on, cowgirls.